All right, welcome to International Women's Day, which I've turned into International Women's Month. The theme for International Women's Day this year is inspiring inclusion. And one of the things I'm doing to inspire inclusion is to talk to 32 women about all kinds of things that inspire them and also then in turn inspire me. So I'm hopeful that those of you who are listening will enjoy these conversations. Today, I'm talking to my friend Jenny. I'm super excited. We met through her husband, who I worked with when I lived in Denver. Chris and I, would go get coffee and hang out. And around that time, he and Jenny got married. And then I met her at different events and we went to the same yoga studio. And then we just became friends. And now I never talk to Chris. So, so
Krishmish.
Chris, who cares? How's he doing? That's all I ever say. And then we continue our friendship. But so Jenny, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Let's see. Outside of being Chris's wife, I'm a former teacher. I'm an instructional coach. Chris and I have twin boys who are now 8. And I have created space in our lives and in my professional life to also have my own business. So I still am in public education. So I still do instructional coaching part-time. And I have what I like to call my style teacher business, because I really just believe in helping women leverage their wardrobes to live their most confident lives. And it's been a really interesting journey to get to this place. I've always had a passion for clothes. I think a lot of women can relate to that. I know a lot of women cannot relate to that as well. And I sort of always was the go-to person to go shopping with and help me pick this out or, do all of those things. So before we had kids, I had a kind of side business before side hustles were a thing. I would help come and edit, my friends and family's closets, and then I would shop for them. And during the pandemic, I started to really think about how I could bring that back to life, because at that time the boys were 5 and I was at home with them trying to homeschool 5-year-olds. And I needed an outlet.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, well, how can I figure this out? And it's been it's been up and down, right? And it took me a long time to really figure out how to make that work. And now I've sort of kind of figured out a really good balance and figured out how to have both of these aspects kind of going in my professional life. And it is so much fun. And it feels like such a gift to be able to do both the things I'm really passionate about.
I love that. I love that. And it's really been fun to watch that journey and to see you put those things together, because you do have a really great style. And I've always really admired that, but you're also really pragmatic. You're a very down to earth. How do we get things done? What do we do? And I know that about you. So to see those two things blended, it has been really fun to watch and to be inspired by. Like, I'll be like, oh, Jenny would say, I shouldn't do that, or I shouldn't buy this random thing that I'm only going to wear for this one little moment, right? Or whatever, and have it
Yes.
really inspire me to look. I mean, I just got rid of 3 bags of clothes this week, and I sat in my closet going, I have not taken this off the hanger since I moved into this house, right? Like, I don't need to
Doesn't belong.
so I
Gotta
gave a
get rid
bunch
of
of
it.
stuff away, and I found, like, I'm sharing this with you. Jenny and I have talked about this. I found that I was like, is this a piece that is versatile, that I can use more than once, that I can use? And I was like, oh, there's a voice in my head that is
That's
not my
my
own.
favorite thing. Jenny would tell me, I'm like,
Jenny would say,
yes,
you don't
I did
need
my
it,
job.
right? So yeah, it's cute, but I've never worn it, or I'm not ever gonna wear it, or it's uncomfortable. I had a couple things that I was like, I like this, but every time I put it on, I'm uncomfortable in it. Why do I keep putting it on?
Right? No,
So
we deserve to live in, be comfortable. You
yeah.
can have both. You can be comfortable and stylish.
Yes. Yeah, totally. Totally. And I think also we talked about this before, and we talk about it more later as well, but also, that style, like, our bodies are totally different from one another, and there isn't like this will always work and that won't, right? It's the try stuff.
No. Yes, there are no hard and fast rules outside of that your clothes should make you feel really good,
Yeah.
and they should fit your lifestyle, and they should fit your body.
Right.
And
Right.
there are clothes that are actually designed and cut to fit your body.
Right. Right.
So what's good for my body might not be good for your body, but I
Right.
can help you find that, the
Yeah.
pieces that, and I think a lot of women miss that
Yeah.
piece of the equation because it's been like drilled into our brains that this is what beauty is, that this is this is how you have to look. These are the clothes you have to wear. And this is the size you must be. And that is just a load of BS.
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally. Well, so let's talk a little bit about kind of on this journey. We're going to come back to this discussion about clothes and what they mean, what they
Mhm.
can mean for us. But on this journey that you've gone on to kind of as an educator, as a mom of twins, kind of along this way, you have obviously spent quite a bit of time in very women-dominated environments, right? So when we talk about International Women's Day, there's this whole dynamic of the voices of women and how do we push them forward. But you've been in environments where there have been lots of voices of women. How do you
For
think
sure.
that's similar or different than what you hear from your friends in kind of corporate world?
Yeah, I do think that I hear the stories and I know that this exists, right? I know that this is an issue and women's voices need to be elevated. And I'm so glad to be living in a time when that is happening and is exciting. Um, and when I think about it in my professional life, number one, because I come from education, it is a women dominated environment to work in. And so I never I can't even think of a time when I had a male principal or I had somebody that I was working with who I felt like didn't value my opinion or voice
Mhm.
on something simply because I was a woman. I do, I don't, I will also say there are women who, I work with or who I have worked with that have experienced that in education, but, um, it's, it's different
Yeah.
because I think that we are looked at as experts, in the educational realm. And so it's, I've always sort of felt like it's normal for me to want to, take a step up, or it's normal for me to speak up in a meeting and say, you're wrong. Like, that's not right. Like, no, we're not going to do it that way.
Right.
I've never felt like I shouldn't speak up, or that if I did speak up, I would, be dismissed or even um, diminished in
Yeah.
some way.
Yeah.
And so that to me has never felt like a barrier in my professional career.
Yeah.
Um, I also know I'm also not a person who wants to be in, I don't want to take my leadership role that I currently have any further. I don't
Sure.
want to be principal.
Yeah.
I don't have that desire because I feel like I have found sort of my perfect balance in my life.
Yeah.
I do think that there are, as you get a little bit higher up, I think there's probably a little bit more of that happens
Mhm.
with the politics and all of that. However, by and large, the principals that I know are women.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's a very different experience, I think, in the educational arena,
Yeah.
for women.
Yeah. As you're talking, I'm thinking that there's probably some really, and maybe people have done this, but I bet there's some really interesting lessons that those of us in other arenas could take from talking to women who have more women dominated environments that they're in and saying like, okay, what would it feel like if I didn't have to have this experience, and how would I find my voice and use my voice differently? Yeah.
Yeah, I also think because of that, I have had a lot of practice doing that, doing exactly that, using my voice. So I can't imagine being in a room um, where, someone felt like it was okay to try to shut me up
Yeah.
or talk, or ignore me or whatever.
Yeah.
I have no problem asserting myself and not just believing, knowing
Right.
that my opinion and my voice and my expertise belong in this conversation. And Lee and I were saying this before we hit record. I don't like, you're not going to stop me
Right.
opening my mouth. And if I were in a corporate environment, that maybe that would be frowned upon or I could get in trouble for, but maybe it's because I've had that much practice. And, that is also just innately in my
Sure.
personality,
Sure.
that you will hear me,
Right.
uh,
I
whether
am
you
now
like,
saying something, right?
whether you like it or not, I am going to tell you what I think.
Right.
And anybody who knows me really well knows that that's just sort of my personality. So I think those two things in combination have just, I don't, I, that, that's just a part of, it.
Yeah.
And I hope and I believe that that is coming, that's going to be the norm
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah. No, and I think it's interesting because I do think I was having an interview earlier today with another friend, and we were talking about how often in kind of the corporate environment, because we've done it for 25 years each, that
Right.
we've had to learn how to say, "Hey, she's still talking, right? Let her
Right.
finish." If the
Right.
person didn't have the wherewithal to do it themselves, right?
Right.
Certainly, if
Right.
someone talks over me, I'm going to say, "When I'm done, you can have a turn." Right? But I didn't do that in my 20s. I learned to
Yeah.
do that
Sure.
often because
Sure.
I had men in the room who would be like, let her finish. Right. So then in turn doing it for other women or even
Right.
other quiet men who maybe
Right.
get bulldozed, who you
Yeah.
say like, hang on, let's let so and so finish their thought and then you can
Sure.
have a turn.
Yeah.
Right. And we were actually talking about how it's seen as aggressive to do that, but it's not seen as aggressive to interrupt and speak over people in that environment, right? Whereas I think that in other environments, like talking over people would just be like, what is wrong with you?
Right. Right. It's so
Have you lost
disrespectful.
yourself? Right.
It's fascinating. Right. I do. Yes. That's aggressive. Hmm. I have
Mm,
some words about
yeah,
that. Would you like to see aggressive?
exactly.
Let me show you the difference and then we can compare and contrast.
I mean, it was the time that I said, are my lips still moving? That was aggressive.
Well,
But
well,
I had already said, could I finish my thought twice? So by the time I got to, do you see my lips still moving? Okay.
yeah,
We
yeah.
might have blown through the purpose of the
That to
meeting.
me sounds like you were matching aggression for aggression. So, fair game.
Exactly. So let's go back a little bit and talk about empowerment. And there's different ways that women being empowered shows up, and that can be by having someone step in and say, let that person finish. It can be by having allies. But I think one of the ways that is showing up in your work is by helping women feel powerful in their presence, how they show up. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Absolutely. I mean, I do think there are lots of things, right? I mean, you and I have had this conversation in lots of aspects of like, where does your power come from? And I know the heavy lift is what we have, all the work we got to do up here, right? That's the heavy lift. And obviously, that is something I wholeheartedly believe in and put time and effort into also because it is the number one thing, right? I also know that if there are other things that you can be doing that are going to move the needle, that are easier, we should be doing those too. And that is something when I first started doing, when I first started this idea of the style business, and I don't like to call myself a stylist because doesn't resonate with me.
Mhm.
I really was after how to help women uncover and unleash their confidence,
Yeah.
right? And I think clothes can be a lever for that. And when you feel really good in your clothes, no matter what that is, right? Whatever those pieces are, it does something for your mindset. And it really can flip that switch where you can stand in your power a little bit easier. And it's an easy thing once you learn the skills because I believe that having personal style is just a skill.
Yeah.
And when you learn those things and you can use them in your day-to-day life, it makes the confidence flow and you can feel more empowered in all of those. Like, it's just one of those things. It's like that gets the ball rolling. It can like start the momentum. And once we have momentum, it can build and build and build and build. And that is so much easier than maybe doing some of the heavier lifting, or just give you a little bit of a boost in your day, right? Because life.
Yeah.
And if clothes, if putting on something that makes you feel really good, whether it's a color, whether it's a certain, pair of jeans or whatever it is, can give you that little boost that can start the ball rolling for your day and help you tackle all of the challenges, whether it's being parenting your kids, or sitting in the boardroom reminding yourself that your voice should be heard and that you have something valuable to add to that conversation. If your, gold pumps are going to help you do that, you better put them
Right.
on.
Gold pumps. Yeah, totally. No, it's interesting you say that, because I think, I really think about when I'm coaching people and they're struggling when their confidence has been shaken, or they're struggling with trusting themselves. One of the things I often tell people is like, okay, for the next few days, only put on clothes that feel amazing. Only wear materials that feel good against your skin. Like, you can't
Mhm.
take any extra rub right now. So
Yeah.
only put on things that you're like, oh, that feels good on my body, right?
Mhm.
And it's
I love that.
interesting to me, men and women, when I say that to them, it's almost like something in them relaxes, like I can just put on clothes I like, right? And it's often not. You would think people would just go to like pajamas, but it's not. Like, I'm gonna
Right?
wear the sweater that I feel the best in, or I'm gonna wear the color that lights me up, or whatever. And when you give people permission to do that, so that they can, like, don't make that a barrier, so that we can talk about,
Yes.
put something on that feels amazing. And
Right.
a lot of that I learned from you, but it's a piece of advice I give to my clients when they're struggling. And it almost like
Yeah.
the permission slip is like, okay, they're like so excited.
Right. But like, so two things. One, I do think that clothes can be a barrier,
Yeah.
right? Because we have been trained to believe this is what you wear if you want to be seen as blah, 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 blah. This is what you have to wear in this environment, or this is the way you have to look. And this is what your body should look like. So you should be wearing XYZ. They can absolutely be a barrier. And then the other thing I want to say about that is, what if everything in your closet made you feel that good?
Exactly.
Because like, why do you have any of the other crap in there? Get
Right.
rid of it.
Right. No, 100%. No, and that's like I said, when I was going through my closet this week, I was like, this dress was cute when I bought it, and also every time I put it on, my skin feels like sandpaper, and I don't
Nope.
wear it.
Yep.
So it's not the right dress for me.
Goodbye.
Maybe
Like,
someone needs it. I'll hand it off to them. They can get it at
yes.
the
Maybe
consignment
someone
store.
else needs a sandpaper dress.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe someone likes sandpaper dresses, but it's not me.
No.
So, no, but I 100% agree. And I think there are, like you said, life itself will hand us plenty of challenges. I don't
Yes,
need
it will.
my clothes that fit bad or make me feel bad or make me look bad to help. I don't need,
Right.
yeah.
Right. I don't,
Thanks.
no thanks.
Yeah.
I like to say, don't give your clothes that much power
Right.
over you.
Right.
Let them give you the power that's within you.
Yeah. I also
I should
think I
write
want
that,
to say this about what you,
write that down.
yeah, you should get your pen out, make drop that down. It's important. I do think that there's an element of what you do that is, even like you said, you don't call yourself a stylist, but I love this concept of like style school and teaching people. There's an element of you giving people that power. Like, you're not withholding it and saying, I own the power to make you look like this or to do this with you. It's it's the offer of that is the generosity that you bring to what you do. Like, let me help you learn how to do this for yourself.
Yes. I don't, there are a lot of people out there who are making boatloads of money in the personal style arena, right? And they charge big bucks so that they can do it all for you. And I do that for people sometimes, but the teacher in me wants to share this knowledge that I have, which is just a bunch of skills that I have kind of honed over the years. And I want to teach women those things so that they don't need me to, to guide them every step of the way so that they can pick out an outfit that makes them feel really great. Or go into a store and be like, I know that I need to buy this cut in this brand and in this size.
Yeah.
I want them to be able to do that on their own because everybody deserves that. You don't need to hire me for the rest of your life so that you can get dressed with confidence. That's not what this is about. That's not what I'm about. It is about showing people how to do it for themselves so that they don't need me forever.
Yeah. And I feel the same way about coaching, right? You don't need to hire me to coach you forever. You hire
Right.
me to coach you from point A to point B, and from point B on, you should be good. You may
Right.
need to come back, you may need to check in,
Dip
whatever,
in. Yes.
right? But it is the goal is to give you tools and skills and then say, you got it? I'm here if you need me, right?
Right. Right.
That's
But
what I
by and
want.
large, you probably got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably have the gist of this.
I know I've told you everything I know about you, so now you have to do it yourself.
Right. Right. You do have to like do the thing. I think there are people who don't want to do the thing,
Right.
right? So when I don't want to do, I hire, which is,
Right.
that's fine too. Um, it is not, that's not where my heart is.
Yeah, totally. I totally get that. So my last question for you is the question I've asked everyone. If you were giving younger Jenny some advice that might be beneficial to those that are listening, what's the advice you would give her?
What is the advice that I would tell my younger self? Oh my gosh, I would tell her a lot of things. Um, I was always a very self-aware child, and young adult, but I didn't trust in the power of that self-awareness and knowing those things about myself. I wish I would have harnessed that and then shared it and just and stood in that and just been more open to the world where I think I was really closed off. And I kept it inside. And I wish I would have just been like, this is who I am and owned it. I think a lot of people probably would have characterized me as a confident person because I was good at putting that on.
Sure.
And I think I would have been able to actually been a more confident young person had I just owned those things about myself. Yeah.
No, thanks for sharing that. I think it's such a good piece of advice. Like I think little girls are often like in our own heads, like trying to figure out how do I maneuver this and what am I supposed to do in this situation and how am I, and we grow.
How do I like bend into this thing? And like at the end of the day, we know, right? We know who we are. We know the gifts that we have, whether or not they fit into the mold. And that's what makes me able to be confident. Like, I think that the more that we can, teach young people to embrace who they are and stand in that, we got a chance.
Yeah, the better we all are, the better off we all
Right?
are.
This world has a chance of making changes and all the things that can come from that if we can teach people to harness their uniqueness.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's so good. Thank you for letting me interview you and talk to you about all this. This is so fun.
Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this really cool project that you're doing and lifting up women's voices. It's Leah, she's pretty awesome, people.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Thank you. If you're watching this video, you'll notice that there's a QR code right below us down here that is to donate to the Malala Fund. The Malala Fund ensures that women and girls can get education in areas that they often didn't have access previously, or leadership education in places where that is missing for some certain girls. So feel free to donate, and at the end of the month, we will see how much we can put into the Malala Fund for women and girls' voices to be heard. So thank you, Jenny.
Thank you, Leah.